Yeah, David.
So I'm curious about the other 23 hours that we've spoken about
Mm-hmm.
besides meditation. And I've
Mm-hmm.
had a couple of experiences, and I'm not trying to draw a line from meditation to the results. But probably in October, I made the decision to stop using alcohol with a meal. I would
Right.
have alcohol maybe 3 or 4 times a week, always with a meal.
Mm-hmm.
And and I just decided I don't have any interest in that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also stopped drinking coffee.
Mm.
I've lost the taste for coffee. I'm drinking
Mm.
tea now. And I started drinking coffee when I was 5 years old. My grandmother
Mm-hmm.
introduced me to coffee, which
Mm-hmm.
was really half and half in coffee. But anyway,
Mm.
it's like, wait a minute, where are these changes coming from? And again, I didn't meditate to do that, but I know that it has other lasting effects. And so, or yeah, effects.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a beautiful report because you were not looking for those things.
Right.
You were not intending those things, and it's testimony to the fact that um, if you water the root of the tree, all the leaves get green, right? Um, and maybe you started regularly using the watering can because you were interested in this leaf and weren't even thinking about those other leaves. But son of a gun, they all kind of get green together. So I love the changes that happen unintentionally like that. Um, can we 100% with 100% certainty ascribe it to make draw a straight line? I started meditation and therefore I lost my taste for alcohol. No, and I don't know how we could test that. We'd have to clone you and then do the rigidly controlled double blind A/B test for uh, each variable. So obviously we can't do that. But in general, we know the direction of this stuff, and that people have a tendency to find that certain things do, and sometimes you don't even realize it until it's in retrospect.
Right. Exactly. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it doesn't even feel like a decision. You just
Right.
go.
Exactly. Yeah.
And some people will say, uh, "Gee, what happened? Uh, I haven't had any meat in a month, you know." Or I get what happened to coffee? What happened to and it's not the same for every person. I had my coffee about an hour ago, so around 3:30 around here for me and Yafa. That's we call that coffee o'clock, uh, and I love it, and I hope I don't lose my taste for it. Uh, but it's that's different strokes for different folks. Um, but the whole business of you know did the do we ascribe the falling away of the old habit to meditation? Great story about this. This is way back when I was still in college, and I first really started doing regular meditation. And I had a friend who uh, who started around the same time. His name was Kip, and uh, and I went to see him one day. Hadn't seen him in several weeks, and I asked him, "Well, Kip, how are things going? How are you liking the meditation?" And he said, "Oh yeah, the meditation's really great, and it really, my I'm getting along better with my parents. My grades are better. I'm sleeping better. All the changes that I'd hoped for, they were all coming about, except for one." He said because I'd heard about people quitting smoking when they started meditation. And he said, but it's like I kept finding myself, I kept on smoking, kept on smoking. So one day finally I said, well, okay, I'll stop. He said, so I stopped. I said, Kip, that's it. Did you expect the cigarettes were going to like jump out of your pocket to make, take a suicide leap into the wastebasket? That's the changes. We're living in the changes. But it is interesting because, you'll hear people say, God, I know this thing is bad for me, but I can't, certainly that's true of cigarettes. You know, I mean, I'm acutely aware of this one because my older brother was a couple of pack a day smoker, and died of lung cancer in his early 60s. And it was terrible. And he had a couple of young grandchildren. He was just looking forward to doing a lot of things in his retirement, and he wanted to watch his grandchildren grow up, and he didn't get to do that. And smoked his last cigarette while he was waiting for the ambulance to come take him to the hospital. But he knew all this. We've all known this since the Surgeon General's report of 64. Why do people engage in this kind of self-destructive activity? I mean, the short answer is they're stressed, and you can tell them, why it's a bad idea to smoke or to do X, Y, Z. But if they're so stressed, they feel compelled to do something that I don't know if smoking really relieves stress, but it's perceived to relieve stress. They're going to do it. But when you start releasing the stress from your system, then you don't have to quit smoking, as my friend Kip discovered. You don't have to quit. You're just no longer compelled to it. But again, it can be different for different people. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, one of the great illuminated sages of the mid-20th century, died of throat cancer because he never stopped smoking. So there's no hard and fast rules on this stuff. He was an interesting case. He made his living. He had a little booth selling, or a shop selling bidis, these little hand-rolled cigarettes that people smoke in India. And when he got the throat cancer, he said, well, it's probably my karma from selling all those bidis. But the really interesting thing is that he refused all treatment, even palliative. He said, no, fine, I've lived long enough, I'm fine. I'm He says this body is in agonizing pain, but it's got nothing to do with me. So that's on a little different level.